Today, let's talk about how to stand on business as an INFJ. Sometimes it's not possible to escape a certain situation, meaning it would cost you too much. For example, you have a job that you like, but there's somebody at that job that is really getting on your last nerve. Is it really worth it to leave that job? Well, it's worth it if you can't stand on business and people stop annoying you. The same thing applies if you are living in a community, if you have a family member that is causing you problems and you feel like you're walking on eggshells, you don't know how to fix the situation because it's something that has been going on forever. But I'm here to tell you how you can deal with this, how to stand on business as an INFJ, because it's not something that works for everybody, but it works for INFJs. We have a very unique approach to situations like this, and so we need a very unique approach to change the dynamic. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how to stand on business as an INFJ if you don't want to leave a situation, but you want the other person to change their behavior. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you want to work with me one-on-one, you can check out the link in the description. You can also get the INFJ Epic Life audio guide as well as a lot of free material. Everything you would like to know, you can find in the links in the description. As INFJs, at our core, we live out a very unique truth. There is a part of us that we can hold on to independent of what is going on around us. And that is not something that applies to every person. The first function of every type has some kind of effect on who you are to the core. And for us, there is a part of us that we can hold on to independent of if other people believe it, if other people see it, if they accommodate it, or if they accept it, or whatever it may be. This is our superpower. This is our core. And we have to really take advantage of it. How does that look like in real life? It looks like you have a part of you that you can hold on to that makes you feel good about yourself, independent of what is going on around you, independent of if you're bringing value, independent of if other people understand you. There's just this part of you that knows what is right and wrong from your perspective. There's a unique way of looking at life. There's a unique way of understanding and experiencing what just and unjust behavior is. And that is the thing we have to hold on to. Because if you have two people who have different worldviews, and that's actually what it comes down to. If you have a person in your life that is not allowing you for you to bring out your truth, for you to live out who you want to be, and they try to make you small, that is exactly what is happening. There's a person who doesn't have the capacity to allow you to live out who you truly are. Because if you think about people who are really selfish, people who are very emotionally immature, people who go to the other side of the spectrum, meaning they demand that everybody thinks like them, that their truth is the only truth that matters, those are the kinds of people who actually have to be okay with other people expressing their worldview. But we, as a collective, tend to go to the other extreme, meaning, of course, we're going to allow you to live out your truth. Of course, we allow you to feel and experience your perspective. The thing that we struggle with is that the moment we try to, bring out our perspective, it actually hurts the other person. They have some kind of reaction. They don't like us doing this. They get aggravated. They get angry. And we feel guilty for that. Because what is really happening? That person, they're experiencing a loss of control at that moment. Because for them, their worldview is the only thing they can hold on to. Of course, that has a lot to do with the trauma they have gone through as children, the way they have been brought up. So, of course, there are a lot of mechanisms that are behind that. I don't ever even think that, it's just a person who's just mean. For us INFJs, explanations like this don't work most of the time because we just look deeper. We very often as INFJs feel like if we express and live out our truth, and I will explain a little bit later how that looks like, that we're hurting people, that we're taking something away from them because we can actually empathize with them. We experience the pain that they're experiencing in that moment. And so there's always this internal conflict that we have of, I don't want to hurt the other person. It makes me feel bad. But at the same time, if I just duck down, I don't say anything, then they still have a problem with me. And the moment I just try to breathe a little bit more, that's when they get even more offended. And so that's why INFJs so often end up being the black sheep in families, the black sheep in, a workspace, if we don't learn how to stand on business. Because again, if you have two people that have a different worldview, then the main point is that there is a truth that is not up for debate. And then there are a lot of layers on top of it that are just coping mechanisms, that are part of self-protection, that are part of ego. But if you would really have to strip down everything, there's a core that will not go away. And the person who can tap down deeper into that core will trigger the other person to see all of those layers that do not fit that equation. So if you are living out your truth in an ideal scenario, and that means that you set boundaries no matter how unorthodox they seem. For example, I don't like people being loud around me. I don't like it. I don't care that this is part of who you are and what you need. That's all great. That has nothing to do with the fact that I don't like it. So I have the right to express that. And there are other factors. I don't like drama around me. And I definitely don't like people who try to play me. I don't like people who try to make me smaller. People who actually are competing against me. And we as INFJs experience this so often that we see a person and that person is obviously not allowing us to feel our best. Every single time we try to feel our best, they experience it as a personal attack. We've all seen that. We've all experienced that. But we as INFJs, what we have to learn is to bring that out. That is our biggest insecurity. That is what we have to work most on. That if we tap into who we are, people are going to reject us very often. And the reason for this is that we can tap really, really deep into something that is a universal truth. Like, how can you argue against this? And people who see that universal truth and haven't worked through it, they see it as you're making them wrong. And that is the reason why we so often become the black sheep. That is why we so often get ostracized, why we get rejected, why we get abandoned. And all of us have experienced this so often in our life, and we start questioning ourselves. There is something wrong about me. I am causing this. Why are people getting triggered? And on top of that, we have sympathy for other people. We have empathy for other people. We suffer for them. So we don't want them to suffer. We don't want them to experience this. So we're doing two things. On the one hand, we're not allowing ourselves to be everything that we are. And at the same time, we're justifying people acting a certain way towards us, making us feel bad, telling us that we are wrong because we know that they're going through pain. But we have to understand that you being all that you can be is not taking anything away from anybody. Because every single time you see a person who's actually competing against another, like actively competing, you can tell. You can tell when people are competing against you. You can see when people are competing against others. That is not unique strength and conviction. So if I go out and I'm at a workplace, I'm around people, and I feel like a winner in life, I feel like I've made it, I'm so happy with who I've become, I'm happy with the life path that I've chosen, I'm happy with the choices that I'm making, I am not taking anything away from anybody. And if a person makes you feel this way, then this is the moment we have to recognize I have to actively push against this. Meaning, I am not going to hide who I am. I'm not going to hide my strength. I'm not going to hide my conviction. And I'm definitely not going to hide my universal truth. Because yes, of course we can make mistakes. Of course there can be a part of us that is not completely right. But we're so overly judgmental with ourselves, thinking that, I might be wrong, they might be right, that's why I shouldn't express all of that we don't allow the situation to actually become harmonious. What do we want at the end of the day? We want inner peace. We want to be at our job, we want to be with our friends, we want to be in our family situation, and we don't want there to be any tension. So in order to create that, we first have to let people know that we're not standing for this. Like, they can continue doing this, but I'm definitely not going to act like it's my fault anymore. Because at the end of the day, you wanting peace is not wrong. You wanting people to not compete with you is not wrong. This is your right. And as long as we feel we're doing something wrong because it's not the norm, we're always going to, dim our light and become just a shell of who we are. We have to understand that the norm is not how it's supposed to be. The norm is just what most people are doing, and most people are not tapping into their truth. They're not tapping into who they actually are. We have a unique gift of being a role model for that. It is rather easy for us to see the perspective, to hold on to that perspective. The thing that we have to learn, the thing that is going to make all the difference is that we're willing to fight for it, that we're willing to stand for it. Because when you do this, people will change because they have to confront this. When they can't, and if they can't, they will go away. But when they see that you're not backing off, they either have to confront what is going on within them, or they will really go away. Because a person who's actively trying to compete with you, for example, who's actively trying to put you down, no matter what the reason is, right? Let's assume that's a person who's a good person, who's just gone through a lot of pain. And this is how we interpret this very often. That person is not acting from a real, truthful place within them. And so you being all that you can be, living out your perspective and living out that universal truth, which is there is abundance for everybody. I'm allowed to love myself and to love my life and to be happy about who I am and to really lean into the things that make me feel powerful. I'm not taking anything away from you by doing this because I'm living in my world and you're living in your world. And when people get confronted with that truth, they have to look within. And some people can, other people can't. But when you have two conflicting worldviews, and that is very much possible, it can be that your universal truth of, how you see the world, whatever it may be, is like, just different than how another person sees it. If you really get to the core of it, so everybody is mirroring to the other person those things that we don't want to experience, and you work through that stuff, at the end of the day, you can coexist and not bother each other. That is actually the thing that is supposed to happen at the end of the day. You live next to each other, you work next to each other, and you just don't have any conflict. You know people like this. You know people in your environment who are completely different than you, who don't really understand you, who wouldn't understand you, who are not bothered by you at all. But it's those people that subconsciously feel like if you would live out more of your truth, they would see that as a mirror and it would confront them with truths about themselves they didn't want to experience. And that is what standing on business is. That you're willing to lose that connection. That you're willing to stand in your truth. Because if you have a person who isn't tapped into their truth, and that's exactly what is happening if a person is competing with you, for example, or if they're putting you down. If people are happy with themselves, they're not doing this. And you are living out your truth without any exception. As in, this is my world. And, you don't have to have a close psychological relationship with me. We can be coworkers and talk about business and nothing more than that. Same thing can apply with a person in your church group. Same thing can apply to a person who's in your family. It is possible. And so know that of course you will trigger them. But standing on business is willing to trigger them even more. Because you're not triggering them for the sake of triggering them. You're triggering them because you're allowing yourself to be who you are. And this is something that is unique for INFJs. Everybody experiences it on some level, but we very often are mirrors for other people because we really tap into a universal truth. And I has a lot to do with a universal truth, and like specifically in comparison with our third function. So TI, this is like real truth. It's innocently looking at truth and not using it as a weapon. So in most cases, doing this will trigger people who are not living in their own truth. And that is just something that we have to take as a given. And the more you don't even make it a debate, the more you express this, knowing that it will make a couple of people uncomfortable, the faster they will turn around and change their behavior. It's those moments when we want the other person to understand us, when we want them to feel like we're not a bad person, that we don't want to hurt them. All of that. Those are the moments when they sort of fight back. People stay in that uncomfortable feeling, in that connection with you, if they can handle the truth. If they can't handle the truth, they will back off. They will leave you alone. It's actually the fact that you suppress who you are, what is triggering them the most, what is allowing them to have that dynamic when they're putting you down. But the more you actually lean into it, the more it's going to come down to the fact people either leave you alone or they stand in their truth, they see their own truth, they work through it, and at the end of the day, they understand that you're not taking anything away from them. You're not attacking them by feeling your best. But in order to get there, we have to first off be willing for people to back off from us, because that's how it feels like. We feel like if we would be all that we are, nobody would want to be connected with us. And that's how it's going to feel, because a lot of people will be triggered by it. A lot of people will stay away from you. People are staying away from me who get to know me on a closer psychological level. It is not easy. People who are being triggered because of me, they really take a step away. I go through life and there's always space around me because I live out my truth, and it's like this field around me that is all me. And people who can handle it, who don't get triggered by it, who are living in their own truth, they can come closer. Others cannot. And this is not something that I decide. This is something they decide. And if people feel this way, they also cannot attack you, right? If you put up that field, they don't want to get closer to you. So that is what we have to understand. And people who are emotionally immature because they've gone through things in their life and they're just not able to look beyond what is happening because they're being triggered so much, they will not budge at first. They will try their best to really change who you are. But at the end of the day, you're not changeable. You are who you are. You might shut up, you might be quiet about it, but you're not really going to change. You're not going to gain respect for them because they are putting you down. And that's actually what they're trying to do. And so why even pretend to have respect for them when they're acting this way? You don't. You see this as a weakness. You see this as something that has nothing to do with you. And that's what we have to learn, that the more we heal, the more we understand this has nothing to do with me. Yes, I mirror this to other people, but it's not because I'm a bad person and me being myself is, the reason why they're suffering. Me being myself is allowing them to actually work through their stuff. And it's on them to decide if they want to or not. Be willing to stand on your own without forfeiting. Don't think, oh, I'm not going to be able to handle this, or people are going to not like me anyway, so why even try? Do the exact opposite. Be all that you are. Be willing for people to see your unorthodox, boundaries, because every person has their unorthodox boundaries, things that are important to me. And it doesn't matter if it's the norm. It doesn't matter if there are things that, cause me to have those boundaries. Those are my boundaries. That's what I need in order to be happy. And that shouldn't be a problem for you, because my boundaries as an INFJ are most likely not like, pushing another person, controlling another person. The things that we do that might be controlling is if we think we know better for their sake and we want to, save them and all of that. That might lean into controlling behavior when they don't want our help. But us choosing ourselves, nothing like that. So that's how the INFJ stands on business. Know what's going to come. You're going to trigger people way more than before. But when they see that you're not going to change, because you can't be changed, that's who you are, no matter what, then they can either stand in that truth, let it transform them, or they can take, 10 steps back. And a lot of people actually take 10 steps back and then come closer because they recognize that there's truth behind it. But that transformation cannot happen if you are not the leader in the situation and demand that you are being respected the way you are. Remember, if you want some more help in your life with situations like this or similar ones, then work with me one-on-one. You can also check out the audio guide and get all the free posters I offer. Everything you need to know, you can find in the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then check out the video you see on the screen right now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.